saw a turtle, which is a good luck sign. I've not seen one yet, so now the good luck starts. Yeah, here swimming is always great here, I think. I really enjoy swimming here. The salt water gives you a little bit of extra buoyancy. The temperature of the water is just perfect. So I'm not getting paid by the island of Hawaii to promote this place, but it's pretty good. So that's Lubos. He's driving the aircraft carrier. Yeah, it's always good to have somebody on a stand-up paddle board or something like that, because now there's more and more people swimming, and you probably hit somebody because everybody's just looking down and watching the fish. So it's good to have somebody who is actually leading a little bit and yeah, watch out for the dolphins. And then Tine, she's not swimming, but she's running. Right now a little bit of an injury, but usually she's definitely able to keep up. And then Peter, my physiotherapist, he's also a pretty good athlete, and I think he's in the mix for overall age group win here, for sure.
What's up, Trainiacs? You know you're starting to travel a fair bit when the airline attendants start recognizing you. Well, we have just spent 3 days at home and we are on the road again, heading to LA to produce the How to Bike with Cam Wurf masterclass. And because you all seem to like it and you ask such good questions, we are going to answer the questions that you asked me on Instagram. Some good ones. I took a look.
May I have your attention, please? Our time is staging 2.
Right, we got a little bit of time before we gotta hop on the flight. So, first question, is it okay to dial back an intense workout and make up for it the next day? Making up for workouts the next day, I certainly don't agree with. And if you have to dial back a workout, that's probably an indication that you need some rest. So it's not like, hey, rest and then boom, slap it into the next day, because that just has a trickle effect. If you miss a workout, you miss a workout. But that's okay, that's part of training. Just pushing things into future days because you feel bad that you missed them is likely going to lead to injuries, overuse, overtraining, all kinds of things like that. If you miss a workout, typically it's gone. Do you count transition runs into your weekly mileage? Yeah, it's running, isn't it? Running is running, absolutely. How's the jet lag? You tell me. In the video, Shirt Tearin' Eats, you mentioned writing a book. Any details yet, or is it top secret? Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about the book. I've actually developed a skeleton for it. I have to actually write the proposal for the book. The idea of it that I've got in mind is like all the things that go around training, not like here is literally how to train, but things like the supplements you should take, tire pressure, like the idea is like high leverage tips, things that are actually really useful. Separate out the propaganda from here's what's useful, here's what's practical, here's what you can actually implement and has been proven to be really effective, and told in really short chapters. Each chapter is maybe only 2 to 3 pages, which makes it really digestible. Here's the science behind it, here's how you implement it, here's why it's beneficial, boom, on to the next chapter. That's what I've got in mind. Best tips for increasing run speed. Long runs should be zone 2, but you can't go much faster without spiking the heart rate. So I imagine where he went with this is, how do you go fast if you can't really run fast with long runs? Well, prescription for a weekly running plan is 1 long run that is low, steady, build up your cardiovascular system. 1 fast run, that's where you get fast. 1 hill run, that's where you start recruiting more muscle groups. 1 brick run. If you really want to knock running out of the park, you do those 4 runs consistently for a few years, you'll be real fast. How to train to keep your heart rate down during a hot race. part of it is training to keep your heart rate down just in training. So that's a lot of zone 2 training, that's building up your cardiovascular system. What you can also do is do a sauna protocol where in the 6 weeks leading up to a race, you start with 3 10-minute sessions in the sauna immediately after your last hard workout of the day with no fluids in that sauna. Build it up to 3 times a week, going 30 minutes, no fluids still, immediately after a hard workout. And that will ideally lower your sweat rate so that you start sweating quicker and it keeps your body temperature cooler. Spin bike or bike trainer? Bike trainer, hands down bike trainer. You want to spend as much time as you can on your bike in the right position. Bike trainer. Check this out. This is where I live. Y'all don't believe me? This morning it was minus 30 Celsius with the wind chill. That's right, wind chill. The wind has its own temperature cool rating. Yoga for strength and mobility on my triathlon Terran training plan? Absolutely. Well, I'm not going to put it in because I don't know a whole lot about yoga, but I think yoga is fantastic for mobility, body awareness, very, very good. If you are going to add it in, just remember you've got to take something else out. Yoga itself is a workout. It's draining. It has a load on your body. So just adding in yoga and being like, ooh, it's not a hard workout, can lead to overtraining. Do you think Frodeno can make a successful comeback this year? Yes, absolutely. He's such a phenomenally talented athlete. I think that he may still have a really good Kona in him. He is, however, I would say on kind of the getting towards the end of his career, so it's going to be hard for him to come back, but based off of last year, I don't think we can rule him out. Besides that injury he had, he killed it last year. What are your cheat, splurge meals and drinks? I don't really have cheat meals. I tend to just eat kind of the same all the time, but I have red wine if you want to count it that. I have a lot of sweet potato fries if you want to count that as a cheat meal. After a race, I will crush an entire bag of jujubes or gummy bears, and I might have a Corona in the summer when it's hot on the deck. Love a Corona and a lime. Yeah, there's nothing that really stands out as like, I ate crap. Oh, pizza. Yeah, I'll crush a pizza. You put a pizza in front of me, it's going down. Do I watch pro cycling? NTK and I, oh, this is fun. NTK is actually coming on this trip. Not right now, because she has to work right now, but I'm going to meet her at the airport tomorrow, or send her in an Uber to meet me, but she loves the Tour de France. And while we're down there, Cam Wurf is actually on a training camp with Geraint Thomas, current Tour de France champion. Other than that, I don't watch a lot of pro cycling. Hey Taryn, what's your least favorite part of being a triathlon YouTube sensation? Well, I'd nix the sensation, but just being on YouTube, there isn't really that inherently with YouTube I dislike. What is tough occasionally, and this is a situation of my own making, is doing a video every single day. Not every single day is extremely interesting, and sometimes, if you've been around for a long time, I feel like I might repeat myself, but then I know that there's a lot of new people that haven't heard good stuff that I said, say, 2 years ago. And maybe if I just say something worded in a different way, even if somebody heard it 2 years ago, maybe just a different wording will allow them to understand it better. Or maybe they're at a time in their training that they need to hear it. So it's a bit of a treadmill doing these daily videos, and sometimes that's a hard thing. Oh, that was all the questions that I had right now. But I'll answer more. I'll answer more in a bit. We're gonna fly. People seem to like these. I will link to a video there, right up there, from heading to, where's the last place that I went? Lanzarote with Lucy Charles. A couple of flights later, I am in Venice Beach, and I know that for a fact because there's a homeless man rummaging through the garbage. About 12 feet from here. Oh, all right, let's go ahead and answer some of the last few questions. Do you know why Specialized are dropping athletes left and right? Same reason Cervelo is dropping athletes left and right. The game in the bike industry has changed a lot, and bike companies, they aren't making a lot of money. Ventum going direct to consumer is kind of, it's not just Ventum, but like Ventum, Canyon, these newer bike companies that are going direct to consumer are the ones that are doing well, and it's those like go into a shop which has some margin, and then those bike companies have to have a lower margin to like, traditional bike companies are hurting. What's Gracie and Petey's favorite snacks? Fun fact, I gave them some sardines the other day. They went nutty, just wacky. They're my dogs, by the way, if you're new. How long did it take you to get a good triathlon time? Well, first 2 seasons, I was awful. And I didn't really make any progress. And then the 3rd season, I decided to take it fairly seriously. And then, bam, first race out, went from about a 1:24 sprint distance race down to a 1:12 instantly. Stick around, I'll teach you stuff. Do you completely rule out any alcohol during training season? No, I have red wine all the time. Had a couple on the plane today. How did you feel in Lanzarote with all the elite athletes training with you and them? Well, I got to bike, if you don't know, with Patrick Lange, Lucy Charles, Reese Barkley, the entire BMC team. Felt really cool until they dropped me like a bad habit. Do I travel with your indoor trainer? I think you might know where this is going. It's not a full Zwift setup in here. That is the Omnium indoor travel bike trainer. Yes, I did travel with it. Who wins 2019 Kona? Patrick Lange has established that he knows how to win there. With early issues, am I more relaxed or nervous since the release of Team Trainiac? Well, if all of you don't know, we have released the Team Trainiac platform. I haven't shared the URL here because I want to give first dibs to the Kickstarter athletes, the virtual camp athletes, everyone that signed up for the wait list. If all of them end up signing up and we have enough capacity on the team, and it looks like there's a lot of demand for it, and I actually just chatted with a coach. I think we're gonna have a second coach, so I think we're gonna have some capacity for athletes, then I'll release it publicly. So that makes me very excited. However, it's still nervous because it's not like, talk to me in like a year after the website is going and people are renewing or not renewing, and we've got a good handle on like, are we financially stable? Do we have a membership team that is rolling and doing well? I think I might end it there. I think that's it. Yeah, so, yeah, he's still outside. And make sure you're subscribed if you want to take part in the next, looks like it's going to be about 2.5 weeks of travel. Cam Wharf, Sarah True, and then I think Aaron Carson, Tim Rinney in Boulder. Later, Trainiacs. Morning, Trainiacs. It's day 1 in Los Angeles, and apparently I arrived at monsoon season. NTK's here. I'm being a good hubby and picking her up from the airport. We flew here separately because she couldn't come yesterday because she has a real job. Sucker.
Hi.
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 Ooh. Check it out. So, NTK is here. She's the professional driver. I can get away with shooting Lucy and Reese by myself because they're in a pool just swimming laps, but driving and filming, a little bit tougher. Also, she wants to go to Target. Gives me a chance to check out this. Showed you this yesterday. That right there. It's a portable bike trainer. It's just little. Let's give that a go. Really high. It's high. Ooh. Woo. It is hot in this little 230 square foot abode. Heat training. Alright, let me give you the what's what on the Feedback Sports Omnium Overdrive portable bike trainer. Love training when you travel? Need an awesome warm-up and cool down during weekends at the races? Want to crush that indoor bike trainer workout in a small living space? Meet the Omnium Overdrive portable bike trainer. The adaptable fork mount design keeps the rear wheel on the bike and offers the most dynamic ride quality of any stationary bike trainer available. Plus, the precision rollers and internal progressive resistance design is so quiet you'll never disrupt the neighbors. When you're finished, the elegant folding design hides it in its padded tote like it was never there. Add a sweat guard and trainer mat and you're armed with the complete training packet. It weighs 14 pounds, 6.35 kgs, has 4-inch aluminum rollers, and fits basically anything. Through axle, compatible with cycling app Zwift, Sufferfet? What? Why am I not Zwifting right now? Alright, so first impressions, I like it. Super easy to set up. Literally, you just unfold it. There is no build required. It is fairly quiet. It's not like Wahoo Kicker quiet, but you can hear me right now. It doesn't have that high-pitched whine of a lot of wind trainers. It is a little bit like a wind trainer or roller where the inertia doesn't build up, so it's not like if I stopped riding right now, the momentum wouldn't keep the pedals going. So there is a little bit of that I packed this in a suitcase and it wasn't so heavy that my suitcase went insanely over the weight limit. I went from, normally I'm around 42 pounds and I was at 58 pounds, basically exactly the weight of this and the bag. And you do sit up a fair bit high. Like when you saw me hop on, it was tough. So if you've got incredibly low ceilings where you're going to use it, you might have to duck down. But as far as something you can pack in your suitcase and get a ride that's really convenient, like I'm in the heart of Venice Beach, I could not get on this bike right now. Let's see what kind of power I can put out on this. That's my bike, that's not the rollers. 250, 300 watts, easy. 500, oh! 500 watts, like nothing. So what the higher end model, this is the Overdrive model, which is a little bit more expensive. It has internal resistance. So what happened there is as I start going faster, the resistance in the flywheel started increasing. So instead of just topping out and spinning, when you want to start doing intervals, you actually get a fair bit of resistance. I'm into it. I am super impressed. There's a reason this has been so popular. All right, let's crank this out. Whoa, well, that was it's just an hour. Watts kind of in between 120 and 200. Heart rate in between about 110 and 125. Got in last night at midnight, which I think according to my body clock was 6 a.m. Lanzarote time, so don't want to go too hard today. Oh, this is a success. Let me just say one more thing. This back wheel system here is where the magic happens. I have tried about a half a dozen trainers in my lifetime, and before I got into the current Cyclops H2, the Wahoo Kicker, I was using magnetic trainers and wind trainers, and the most recent trainer I had was the Kurt Kinetic Rock and Roll. That, I would say, is not as realistic a trainer as this. That, super loud, and this has like just the right amount of back and forth so that your body doesn't get like stiff like you're sitting on a 2x4, and it's got enough inertia that it feels fairly realistic. As far as trainers go, they can fit in your suitcase. Hands down my favorite one. Now I've got to clean this up before NTK gets here. Look at this. In this tiny little place, there is not a lot of ventilation. I made an absolute mess of the place, and she's gonna kill me if I don't fix this before she gets here.
I'm Cam Worth. I'm the Kona bike course record holder.
Well, Cam Worth, surprisingly a delight.
What do you mean surprisingly?
He's a bit of a prickly individual.
Cam's gonna watch this, you know.
Oh, I know. That's why I'm saying this. Good guy. Good guy.
Great
I think
guy.
the master class is going to go super well.
He was very interesting. Even I learned something, and I'm no triathlon Kim, and I learned things.
Yeah. What did you say? You used a fancy word. Succinctly.
He's
He
succinct.
he explains things succinctly with wit and stories.
And he's got quite a hairdo.
These master classes are going to be good. Oh, by the way, strength is confirmed with Aaron Carson, Marinda Carfrey, Tim and
Tim
Rennie.
and Rennie, people!
So if you want to get the early half off price, $45 instead of $90, and be able to submit your questions to them about triathlon strength training, go to triathlonterran.com/early masterclass. Everything else is sold out. That's the only one left that you can get half off on. All right? Later, Trainiacs.
Hello there and welcome to the GCN Tech Clinic. Now, unfortunately, John passed away last week, so he's only kidding. He's actually at the Tour Down Under in Australia, busy getting exciting tech content. So in the meantime, I'm here to answer all of your tech questions, which you can submit using the hashtag AskGCNTech. But without further ado, let's get going. So the first question is from Mark Nangrieve, who asks, "Hi GCN, I'm running Shimano 105 R5 800 with cable discs. Now he wants to change to hydraulic brakes. Can I upgrade to 105 R7 020 calipers and levers only and keep the rest as R5 800, or does he have to upgrade the whole group set? And please, are there any internal frame routing problems with changing from cable to hydraulic brakes? Thank you, Mark." Well, hi Mark. I was sure that it would work because it's all 11 speed, but I just thought we'd check the Shimano product compatibility chart. And good news, it will. So go ahead and get the new levers and calipers and it all should be fine. You don't have to get the whole new group set. Next question is from S. Lauren, who says, "Hi, love the show. I recently moved in at my own apartment and now I no longer have easy access to my dad's garage. Well, beyond the standard tools, what would you need to virtually do all maintenance on your bike by yourself? Basically, what are the tools you can't live without?" Well, I'd say the first thing is a decent set of Allen keys or hex wrenches if you live in America, and also a torque wrench as well, so that you can correctly torque up the bolts on your bike, because that's quite important. You don't want to crack any seat tubes or carbon parts on your bike. And another tool that I think is particularly important if you've got a Shimano bike is the little Shimano lock ring tool for your Holotech chain set, so that you can get your chain set on and off. But yeah, I would say they're the most essential items. Next question is from David Race, who says, I have a Trekmadone 5.9 running Di2 10 speed, but I'd like to upgrade to 11 speed. I enjoy bargain hunting on the internet and can get some levers and front and rear derailleurs for a bargain. I've already upgraded the front chain rings and cranks to Ultegra R8000 and may need a cassette and chain. But will I be able to use the existing battery and wires, or will I need to upgrade those too? Many thanks, Dave D Power Race from Bradford Cycling Club. Good part of the world, David, in Yorkshire, and man after my own heart in that you like a good bargain. Nice. So as long as you've not got the original version of Di2, so the 7970, you'll be fine to use the existing battery and cables. Hope that answers your question. Next up, we have a question from Matty92, who says, is it true that you can convert a 2x11 drivetrain to a 1x11 drivetrain just by putting a single chainring on the front instead of the dual chain rings it originally has, or are there other changes you need to make? Well, it is totally true that you can do that, is the answer to your question, and it's something that I've done myself and John has done in a GCN Tech video as well. But there is a caveat, and that is that when I did this, I was building a hill climb bike, and the front chainring I put on was a narrow wide chainring. And the reason for this is that with a single chainring and no front derailleur, you're at an increased risk of dropping your chain, especially when you're running right across the block at the back. So a narrow wide chainring has slightly higher teeth on it to help grip the chain and hold it in place. So I would advise you do that. But the most important thing is the clutch mechanism at the back. And there are actually a few rear mechs out there that are designed for 1x group sets. And the biggest difference with them is that clutch mechanism on the rear mech that keeps the chain tensioned. Next question is from Ed on One Wheel, who says, hi GCN, I'm looking to get a new bike for 2019, specifically a Canyon CF SLX7 disc. Good choice. I'm planning on swapping out the group set for an ETAP group set at some point in the future, and I'm wondering if the fact that this frame set was designed for a mechanical group set and not an electronic group set will be an issue. Will I simply have some unused holes in the frame due to less cabling? Cheers! Well, yes, like you say, that will be the case with unused holes in the frame. If you're really bothered about them, I mean, you can cover them up with some electrical tape, and that'll also prevent water getting in them too. But yeah, it's not the end of the world. The next question is from X Loro Minati, who says, how big a deal is it to change from 140mm to a 160mm disc? He's referring to disc brake rotors. He's looking at a new bike that has Ultegra 140mm rotor on the front, and he'd like to change it to a 160. Is it possible or practical? Yep, it's really easy to do if you've got flat mount disc brake calipers, which they should be on that bike. They simply allow you to unscrew them with an Allen key or hex wrench, and then you can slide the caliper up and down to the desired width of the rotor. It's really easy. Next question is from Jack Baldwin, who says, hi John, I have a Trek Monda from 2019 ALR5, and he'd like to upgrade the wheel set. Now, it's a rim brake version, and he was thinking about buying a front and rear DT Swiss 240 hubs. Do you think these would be too good for the bike? Absolutely not. They'd be brilliant for the bike. Wheels is, well, one of the best upgrades you can make to any bike, and 240 hubs are an excellent choice. I've got a pair of 240 hubs that are, well, they're really old now, about 7 years old. I think John's got a pair that are 20 years old and they're still going strong. And one of the great things about the 240 hub is you can service it at home with next to no tools. So yeah, I think you should absolutely go for it. Next we have a question from Erwan Lacoste, who says, "Hi John, thanks for all the good advice. I have a through axle wheel with disc brakes. How do I know how much torque I should put when tying them up? I realised that on the back, one side of the brake pads wears much faster as I tend to screw the axle hard, making the disc slightly uncentered. Any tips?" Well, nice question, and like much things in cycling tech, there is no one size fits all answer. The first protocol would be to check with the manufacturer, but failing that, 10 Newton meters should be okay on virtually all circumstances, but don't quote me on that. As regards to the uneven wear on your brake pads, well, first thing to make sure is that your pistons are freely moving and also that the caliper is centered. If it's not, you may need to just readjust and realign the caliper slightly. Daniel Morehouse now, and he asks, "Hi, I'd like a disc brake bike for next year's winter and would prefer a carbon frame. Is there a huge difference in reliability or durability between a threaded bottom bracket and a press fit? And if so, should I be looking at the aluminium version for winter?" Well, we're going to open a massive can of cycling worms here. Some people have big problems with the reliability of press fit bottom brackets, while others use them without any issues at all. And personally, I haven't had any big issues or problems with creaking with press fit bottom brackets for, well, the last few years, to be honest. But, you know, I guess that's famous last words. Although you shouldn't have any problems if the bottom bracket shell is perfectly cylindrical. But I have to admit, there is something that's very appealing about a threaded bottom bracket, and many of us still dream that they were fitted as standard on many bikes, as they do tend to work really well and they're very, very reliable. They are a little bit heavier, that's something to bear in mind, and also threaded bottom brackets can have a disadvantage with regards to chain sets if you want to run an oversized diameter axle or chain set spindle, as the bearings tend to be a smaller diameter, and this can also mean that they can wear out a little bit faster too. But yeah, it's hard for me to say as it depends on the bike, but there's definitely very good reliability. If I was building the ultimate apocalypse bike, I'd probably put a threaded bottom bracket on it. Rennie Vass has a question now. "Hey John, love the show. I was recently given a specialised S-Works aero bar and had it installed on my bike, and the bar tape stops right behind the hoods. I'm not used to having bar tape all around the bar tops, and now when I ride and put my hands on the tops, I feel my hands slide even with gloves. My question is, besides taping the tops, is there anything I can do to feel like I have some grip on the tops? Thanks, and looking forward to your answer. Happy New Year." Rennie, I've got the solution for you, and it's actually something that our very own John Travolta, Chris Opie, uses on his bike. And you can get a small section of grip tape, like the kind of skateboard tape that you see skateboarders use on their skateboards, and you can stick a small section of that on the top of your handlebars so that you can sort of, he uses it for his forearms, but you can also use it for your hands as well. But be aware that this can wear through your gloves or your skin. Tony Martin actually used to, the German time trialist and former world champion, used to put this on his saddle to help him stay in position, and he famously wore through his shorts in the world championships a few years ago. So yeah, just watch out, but yeah, you can do that. We have a question from Scott Tompkinson now, who says, "Hi GCN, here's a question for Mr. Travolta, a fellow Cornishman. In my last year of racing, I purchased a SRAM ETAP group set when it first launched. The question is, how often do you need to change the coin cell batteries in the shifters, and will it provide any warning, as I fear that I'll be out riding and unable to shift? And secondly, the shifter batteries rattle around a bit, which is a bit annoying on bumpy Cornish roads. Can you advise if it's okay to secure the battery with a dab of silicone or tape, etc.? Well, hi Scott. I did consult Chris, OP, aka John Travolta, about this, and it turns out you two are mates. His answer was rather harsh. He said, the amount you ride, Scott, well, it'll last a lifetime. But in all seriousness, it does depend on the amount you use them, but there are warning lights to tell you roughly how much battery you have. So these are on like the inside of the shifter lever, and they flash when you change gear or press the shifter. If it's green, you're fine. If it's red, you're okay. And if it's flashing red, well, then you need to change your batteries. And lastly, in terms of securing them, yeah, a little bit of electrical tape can be used if you're worried about them rattling or coming loose. That should be absolutely fine. The last question this week is from Ian Brewer, who says, my bike has 11-speed Shimano 105 shifters, front mech, rear mech, but a 10-speed Tiagra cassette, chain and chain set. If I wanted to upgrade to 11-speed, would it be as simple as just getting an 11-speed cassette and chain? Well, Ian, yes, it would. New chain, new cassette, and you'll be ready to ride. That's it for this week. Thank you very much for all your questions, and keep them coming using the hashtag AskGCNTech in the comments section down below. I hope you found this useful, and if you'd like to grab a bargain, then why not head over to the GCN shop, because we've got 40% off on some items at the moment. And if you'd like to watch another video, then you can click down here for the 2019 World Tour Bikes Guide, which John has just shot out in Australia at the Tour Down Under. There's some very tasty paint jobs this year, so be sure to check it out.
A couple of weeks ago, I got to give you a close look at my presenter bike. And in the time that I've owned the bike, I've made quite a few subtle changes to it so that it really suits me and my riding style. If you've ever wondered what pro setup hacks there are for you to adapt your bike, stay tuned because I'm going to show you some of my favorites now. We're going to start off with a really quick and sensible way to improve the function of a few of the components on your bike, especially the ones that get slippery when they're wet or on rough roads. And all you're going to need is a little bit of self-adhesive grip tape and a pair of scissors. By adding little slithers of skateboard deck tape to your shifters, brake levers, and even carbon bars, you can really increase your confidence in always having maximum control. This becomes especially useful in cold, wet conditions where you may lose sensation in your fingertips. And adding a little tape to the inside of your bottle cages will help prevent your bottle sliding out when on rough, bumpy roads. I promise there's nothing more frustrating than reaching down to have a drink when you're thirsty and realising you haven't got a bidon left. One of the first things I would do on a new bike is to check my tyre pressures. And whilst the track pump is great for setting your pressure in the first place, nothing works quite as well as periodically checking your tyre pressures with a digital gauge. A digital gauge can be your best friend, especially when changing tyre brands and trying to establish that new baseline figure on which to base all your other measurements. Ooh. Most pros can jump from bike to bike with no issue whatsoever. And the reason for this is the meticulous setup in the first place and then sticking to those measurements from bike to bike or brand to brand. And whilst the measurements don't always translate 100% and two bikes will rarely feel the same, it's still a great place to start with when you move to a different bike. So keep a note of all your measurements, write them down somewhere safe, and enjoy. Next up is the quick release, and whilst this one is partly for aesthetics, it's also for safety too. What I like to do is tuck my quick releases up into the frame as much as possible. The reason for this is because in a bike race, you avoid hundreds of crashes. And whilst most of the time, it's quite rare that anything should happen, if a wheel was to go in between the quick release and the wheel, it could flick it open, so you'd have to stop and adjust, or worse, it could hold you up and you'd have to chase back on. So keep them tucked up nice and neat, and nice and tight too. And finally, I'd advise you to only tighten them when the bike is on the ground with a little bit of weight on top of it. And you can do them up pretty tight too. Aim to keep your bike tidy and neat by joining cables and wires together wherever possible. You can do this using shrink wrap or just black electrical tape. Not only is this great for aesthetics, but it's also good for aero too. See how much neater that looks now? Not all races or events are equal. Subtle changes to saddle tilt or saddle height can really work wonders for your comfort, your power output, and your overall sensations when on the bike. I'm not talking a lot, just a couple of millimeters could be enough. Not all pedals are adjustable, and you might find that you actually prefer to unwind your release tension. But for me, when I'm doing sprints, I like to have absolute confidence in my attachment to the bike. And of course, your pedals are what's transmitting all of that power to the rear wheel. But as I said, you might actually feel more confident in unwinding your release tension so it's easier to clip in and out. Have a play around with it until you find a setting that you're happy with, and then stick to it. Not all levers fit all hands, and you may find that you personally want to have your lever a little closer to the bar, so have a play around with the reach adjust. And not all of us want minimum lever pull before the pads start to bite on the rims. I personally prefer mine to clip about 2/3 of the way back through the lever pull, with full bite happening just as the lever starts to touch the bar. Have a play around with yours until you find a setting that you like. Of course, with mine set up like this, if it starts to rain or I use the brakes a lot on one ride, I'm going to be adjusting my brakes quite often. What I would recommend as a starting point is that the first third of the travel is free movement. The second third of the travel is where the pad really starts to bite on the rim, with the final third being there kind of for security as your pads wear down. And for the real pro effect, you want your pads to bang the rim just like this, hitting nice and square and at the same time. Now for that real pro feel, you're going to want to reduce the friction in literally every moving part of your bike. So a lightweight oil in your brake cables, in your gear cables, in the springs in your brake calipers, in your hoods, in your derailleur, your bottom bracket. And if you really want to go the full hog, you can replace the grease in your hubs. I should warn you though that if you want to do this, you're going to have to be stripping your bike down pretty much every day. It really is a race day only solution, but it does feel good when you do it right. Normally, bottom brackets don't spin all that easily, but with the pointers I've just given you, not a ceramic bearing in sight. And of course, you can clean your free hub out too. For the ultimate pro tweak though, nothing is going to beat a brand new chain. This is a real favourite of mine, as you can really feel just how much smoother and faster a brand new chain is. Fit one a few days before your big event or race, completely degrease it and then re-lube each and every individual roller, and you'll have the absolute ultimate pro feel. And if that wasn't enough, just go absolutely overboard with the silicone spray. It's what they all do, and that's why they look so shiny in all of the pictures. I hope you found my pro setup hacks both insightful and useful. I would never consider riding my bike without having a good play around with the setup first, and I recommend you do the same. My goal is to always create a fast, confident bike that I enjoy riding. So if you enjoyed this video and you haven't already done so, check out my
lot of landscape left to try and take the W here for the first ever KISS Super League Pro Racing out on Zwift right now. When we're talking about the points here, it's 25 points to the first rider, 20 points to second, and 15 to third, 12 points to fourth, and 10 points to fifth. And then from there, it's
This is the life, hey Fraser.
Mark, this has been a superb holiday. I just wish we didn't have to get on that plane tonight.
Oh, I know.
Oi, guys.
Oh, gosh, sorry. Please don't show Heather this. Okay, Fraser, you ready?
Yeah, let's get after
it. 3, 2, 1. This is the GTN show from Lanzarote.
Yep, now we have been busy all week meeting loads of pros, getting lots of cool content, and especially a pretty cool challenge that Mark and I did against us versus the pros.
Yep, some of the best pros in the world. And I'm losing air from my inflatable, so thanks for that. But today we are going to be discussing some of the best training camp locations out there with some really good input from the pros themselves.
Yeah, and we also are going to discuss a little bit of the headache that the IT office are experiencing at the moment because of the addition of 2 words to their 2019 rulebook.
Yeah, that's a tricky one. And we've also got the announcement of some of the best pros lining up for Ironman 70.3 Dubai and some new pro signings. Well, as much as I love to have stayed in that swimming pool back there, I am afraid we have to move on for the rest of the show. So, we found the sunbeds.
Tell you what, this presenting is a hard life, isn't it?
Yeah, it sure is, Fraser. Well, anyway, today we are going to be talking about training camp locations. Now, perhaps you're living currently in a location that's got poor weather, and a training camp would be a perfect opportunity to go away, get some good quality training in uninterrupted with some nice weather to do it in.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's something that we used to do all the time, wasn't it? And there's certainly some places that we would call our favourite go-to locations. Now, that being said, perhaps you need some motivation to go on your next trip away, or you need inspiration to go and do your very first training camp.
Yeah, well, we've been really fortunate here in Lanzarote because we have been surrounded by pros all week. So we've actually kind of got some input from them and that inspiration for your training camp.
So talking about training locations, Tim, you've trained all over the world. What would be, if you could give us a couple favourite training locations?
I think 2 of the favourite training locations are Stellenbosch in the Western Cape in South Africa and Boulder, Colorado for the European summer. This year I'm living in Europe, and with a family I can't justify going to South Africa and leaving them there. So I am in Club de Santa in Lanzarote. The riding is phenomenal. Got a couple of 50-metre pools. Apartments are pretty good as well. I've also trained in some of the other Canary Islands, but definitely for me it's Boulder and Stellenbosch are definitely key places. But while in Europe, Club de Santa, Club de Santa, Club de Santa.
So one of my favorite places is definitely Club de Santa and Lanzarote because it's so easy, it's so convenient. We have 3 Olympic pools, we have the track, we have the gym, we have the food. They even go and make our beds, you know. So in that way, it's so easy to be an athlete here and just to relax and calm down and just focus on what you have to do, your training. So in that way, this is definitely one of my favorite places to go. We have a direct flight from Denmark to here, so it also makes my life so much easier, where I'm allowed to bring all the kilos that I like. My second favorite training location must be Boulder, Colorado. I love training in Boulder because it's not this complex. It's like a whole city that's involved in triathlon and in training, and the whole atmosphere brings a lot of joy into the training and also into the after training part. So there's so many good people there. There's always, again, someone to train with here at Club de Santa.
Well, Lanzarote. That was hardly surprising considering they are all in Lanzarote at the moment. But in fairness, it is a very good location, right?
Yeah, I mean, we used to come here a lot as well, didn't we? And for people in Northern Europe, especially us in the UK, dropping down to the Canary Isles makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's just a quick flight and yeah, pretty predictable weather. It's very good. It's mild, good climbs, good roads. It's just easy.
Yeah, it's dependable. You know what you're going to get for the most part, although we did get a little bit of rain again this trip. But yeah, it's definitely somewhere that loads of Europeans come to.
Yeah, and great facilities around here, good resorts to do that training from. But also Stellenbosch.
Both been there, haven't we?
We have. Absolutely love it. I'd almost say it's a home away from home for me.
Yeah, I mean, again, similar vein, because for European athletes dropping down to the south of Africa, down there near Cape Town, it's relatively easy for a faraway place, isn't it?
Same time zone, almost,
yeah,
more or less. So yeah, very good, and the training is incredible there. Great climate, great food, great roads, great scenery.
Take me back.
Yeah, it's good. Anyway, next one, Boulder.
Yeah, no, I have trained there quite a lot, and a little bit of a different angle to Boulder because it's at altitude. It's at 1,500 meters, so that's something you have to be able to get used to when you go there. But again, just a fantastic little town nestled in the bottom of the Rockies. Loads of amazing places to stay and eat, and let's not forget the actual reason to be there. The training is superb.
Yeah, well, I have always wanted to go there. Unfortunately, I've missed out on it, but maybe I'll plan a trip with GTN in the near future. But anyway, now for some other pros.
I was in St. Moritz for the first time this summer, and I really liked it. I really like the hills and the mountains, and why I've never been to Switzerland before, because I like hills. But yeah, there's so many different places, but all the new places is always nice, I think.
And do you always pick somewhere because of weather, or is it maybe because of a training location, or does that matter?
It doesn't matter. I like kind of all kinds of weather. Like also like being home training, even though it's cold and snowing, and yeah. So it's also with the company you're around or the people you're surrounded by.
So another location that we heard about there was Sauna Protocol in Switzerland, and that's really a fantastic place again because of the altitude. You're up there at 1,800 meters. It's nestled in a valley with a flat valley floor, so you can get the benefits of riding and running flat, which is usually really hard when you're at altitude because that usually means mountains. Or because you're up there, you can get into the mountains too.
Yeah, again, it's another place that I always wanted to go to. Unfortunately, missed out on with the British Triathlon camps. They pretty much started just after I left British Triathlon team. But yeah, they always look like they had an amazing time. Actually, other national camps go out there because it is just such a good location. I mean, that's enough to be said for the place. Just make sure you got a bit of money to go there with.
It's a little bit expensive.
It is a little bit expensive, yeah. Well, finally, some more pros for us.
Oh, there's so many nice locations, and it's also great to have the opportunity to train.